Hello and welcome back to the MMA India show. We have an amazing episode for you today. We were lucky enough to catch up with Jimi Manuwa, who headed the main event at UFC London recently, and he defeated Corey Anderson by TKO in the very first round. And we were lucky enough to catch up with him while he was having a drink in a bar somewhere in England. And he gave us some of his time, and we spoke about the fight and his future as well. And then we were lucky to catch up with Gunnar Nelson as well, who defeated Alan Jouban at the same card, UFC London, and Akhilesh had a nice long chat with him. Here are the two interviews back to back, after which me and Akhilesh will discuss and do a post-fight review of UFC London. Enjoy. Hi, Jimmy, and welcome to the MMA India show, and congrats on your big win against Corey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Congrats on your big win against Corey in London.
Thanks very much.
Now, first of all, have you decided where you're going to go for a holiday? Because you seem pretty keen to take some days off.
Yeah, I'm going to go to either maybe Dubai or Thailand. I haven't decided yet.
Okay, great. Now, coming to your next fight, you have said that you want the winner of DC and Johnson, and you're going to be flying to meet Dana White to discuss the same pretty soon. Now, from what you've said in the post-fight conference, it does seem like you would prefer Johnson over DC. Now, what it seemed like is the main reason you preferred Johnson is to avenge your loss to him. Is that the main reason, or is there any other reason as well?
Yeah, it's mostly. I wouldn't say I prefer Johnson, but we've got unfinished business. He beat me in the first fight, and as a fighter, you always want to avenge a loss to someone who you lost to. So that's the only reason why. He's a great fighter. He's a great knockout artist. He's another hard hitter in the division. So it'll be great to throw down against him again. And but at the same time, DC's a great champion, and it'll be good to test my skills against his.
Right, and the other thing is, now going back to your fight itself, Corey Anderson was throwing a lot of volume, but you just stood there, you just waited for that one big opportunity, and you knocked him out with such ease. When we talk about the one-punch knockout artists in the UFC today, we talk about your Anthony Johnsons, the Mark Hunts, but you just connected at will, and you had that walk-off KO that many people were surprised with. So can you just tell us what went through your mind when that happened?
Leading up to the fight, I knew that I've always known I can end the fight with one punch, so or one strike, one kick, or whatever. I'm if not the hardest hitter in the division, other than me and Rumble Johnson. So I just knew that going into the fight, I just knew that I'll just wait for him to make a mistake, and as a striker, I know that he will make the mistake that I'm looking for, and that's it. So I was just waiting for him to make a mistake, and then I capitalized and made him pay for it.
Right, and this follows your, again, impressive victory against Ovince St. Preux the last time around, where you knocked him out. That was one of the most lethal knockouts that people have ever seen. The way he crumbled on his feet and just fell down, and you followed that up with another knockout of Corey Anderson. So, just can you talk to us about your evolution in the past couple of fights, the changes that you have seen, in yourself over the past couple of fights?
Yeah, well, I've learned. I've had two losses in my career, and I've just learned as a smart fighter. I've learned from them and made myself into a better fighter, And I've learned from the Gustafsson fight more mental stuff, and I learned from the Anthony Johnson fight more physical stuff. So now I've tailored myself into having the perfect camp in All Stars and I've teamed up with Bounce Gym as well. They've got me more on the physical side, and I've got a perfect camp now. So that's right, and I believe now that I'm where I need to be in my career, and sky's the limit now.
Now, you
Right.
did make the statement about John Jones, and that you weren't interested in fighting him, but you will if you have to. Now, someone else has also made a big statement about fighters who take steroids, which was Mark Hunt. Now, do you support Mark Hunt's viewpoint then that that if you fight another a fighter who's test positive for drugs, then you should get his purse or anything? Are you anywhere close to that viewpoint?
Listen, like I with with when it comes to cheating and stuff, I do not condone that at all. Where he got done for taking smoking weed and all this stuff, all that stuff. Everyone does that. Everyone makes mistakes and everything. But when one thing I don't condone is when you go and cheat on purpose, like taking steroids and try and cheat to get above your competition. I believe it should be a level playing field for everyone. Everyone has to train. We're trained athletes and that. So when an athlete tries to cheat, that's something I don't condone. You know. So that's what I have a problem with, and that because it's a very dangerous sport, and I believe that if you cheat, you're cheating to be able to harm someone else. And it's a very dangerous sport. So that's why I don't condone the steroid thing. Yeah, all the other stuff like smoking weed and even his accident with the pregnant lady and stuff like that. I can forgive that. Everyone makes mistakes in that, and he's still a young man and everything, and people make mistakes. His private life is nothing to do with anyone and everything. But if he's cheating to kind of fight other competition, then that affects me. That affects other athletes, and that. So that's why I'm fully against steroid use and cheating in the sport.
Right now, the other thing is when you're fighting or planning to fight someone like John Jones, the biggest issue is he going to make it to the fight? So right now, the biggest issue with John Jones is the situation where he puts himself in before the fights. So is that also something that you would be, taking into consideration if the UFC brass or Dana White comes in and says, look, you have to fight John Jones?
No, I think he's professional enough to make it to the fight. He doesn't pull out of fights due to injury and stuff like that. He's very professional on that side. I'm a big, massive fan of John Jones and everything, but I just don't. I'm just not a fan of the cheating side of things. Everyone says, "Oh, it was a tainted supplement or whatever," but come on, we're not stupid. We can read between the lines of what's really going on and stuff like that. So that's that. I don't condone it.
Right.
Now, you've also mentioned that a lot of big names, fighters have turned down a fight with you recently, including Shogun, Bader, Teixeira. Now, does that disappoint you, or is it kind of a confidence booster that fighters are avoiding you?
I don't know if they avoided me, but they didn't want to fight me. They're fighting other people who are ranked below them, and I want to go. I want to move forward. I want to fight people who are ranked above me to get to the title. So these people are going backwards. These people who are ranked number 3, 4, 5, 6, they all want to fight people in the top 10 or top 15. So I don't know what they want to do with their career, and that whether they just want to hold on to their spot or whatever. So I wanna fight the best. and that, and you know, we were scheduled to fight to Shearer, and he bottled it. Um, Bader, I don't know what happened with him. I offered to fight him, and he's got something. He's got something to do with his contracts with Bellator or whatever. And Shogun said straight out, no, he's not fighting me, and that. So you know, it's disappointing, but we got the Corey Anderson fight, and we got that fight out of the way. So I believe next should be the winner out of DC and Rumble Johnson.
But you also called out David Haye, the boxer. Uh, you know,
Yeah,
and you know, said that that could be added to the Conor Mayweather fight, of course. And Anderson Silva has also spoken about being on the same card with Roy Jones Jr.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
this brings up a really interesting. Let's say all three fights happen now, and somebody gets the bright idea of turning it all into a MMA fighters versus boxers card, which I think would be a very big thing. What do you have to say about that? Do you see it going in that direction with, you know, a couple of
Listen,
these fights added?
listen. Imagine Conor McGregor versus Mayweather as a main event. Me versus David Haye, co-main event. Roy Jones Jr. versus Anderson Silva on the undercard below that. Come on, come on, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
We
We'll
are
come into their
imagining it.
world.
That's why we're talking
We'll
about
come
it.
into,
We would love to see it happen.
we'll, yeah, we'll come into their world. They're scared to come into MMA world because they know they'll get done. Us MMA fighters will come into their world and play their game.
Right. And did you? So after the fight, was there any conversation between you and the UFC? What might be in store for you in the future?
Who what?
Did any conversation happen after the fight between you and the UFC brass, say Dana White or Sean Shelby, about what's next for you?
Not yet, not yet. But I will be flying to Vegas to meet with Dana to see what's up, see what's happening next. I want to see what happens with DC and Rumble next, and then take it from there.
Now just getting back to MMA fighters boxing, do you think this could be like a new step in the combat sports? It's a whole different way of pulling in viewers because everybody's excited and interested in it. But we have seen a lot of negativity from the boxing purists who don't seem to think that the MMA fighters have a chance. And we did see McGregor literally shouting at all those boxing journals.
I think they're scared. They're scared that us MMA fighters will come in there and defeat their great champions or their great fighters and make them look silly. We're more hardworking than them. All they do is box. We do all martial arts. We're hardworking. Give me three solid months working just boxing, and I'll beat any top boxer my weight as well. We do boxing anyways. We do boxing anyways. That's how I finish fights with my hands and that. So I think they're just scared. Imagine Conor McGregor knocks Mayweather out. That shattered the boxing world.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to ask you was, do you think that the striking game of the MMA fighters has evolved in the past 5 years? Because now we see fighters bringing boxers to spar with during the training sessions. So how do you see this evolution of MMA fighters just in the striking department?
I think that it's evolving all the time. People are getting sharper. Just like in the beginning of MMA, it was just no one really knew jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu was dominant and everything. And now everyone's doing jiu-jitsu. Now it's more striking. The strikers, the top strikers who are coming through now and everything. So everyone's going to boxing and kickboxing and taekwondo and everything. Look at Wonder Boy and people like Sage Northcutt and what's his name, Cody Garbrandt as well. All the top strikers are through now. The heavyweight champion Stipe He's got good boxing and everything. So all the strikers are coming through.
Right.
Akhilesh, anything else?
Yeah.
Hello?
So I also wanted to ask you, because you said you're gonna wait and see what happens with the fight between Johnson and DC, in the next couple of weeks. But you also said Shogun turned you down. Now with you coming off a victory and Shogun coming off a victory, do you think that can be the fight that truly puts you in title contention if Shogun agrees to fight you?
Possibly, but I don't know. Uh, I wouldn't be so interested in that fight. If it had to happen, then it will. Then it will happen. But I wouldn't be so interested in it. I'm more interested in fighting for the title or the big money fights. I want the big money fights now. You know, John Jones, the title, or David Hay.
Right now, now since you brought up the John Jones fight again, stylistically, what do you make of that fight? Because John Jones, an excellent wrestler, solid grappling with against you. That's coming off two vicious knockouts. Everyone knows of your power now. So stylistically, what do you make of that fight?
It'd be a great fight. It'd be a great fight. He's the best fighter in the world, and everything. And I'd love to test my skills against him and put my hands on him and everything, and fight the best in the world. That's what I train for. The lion fears no man.
But do you think that's something that John Jones would want? Because we saw the last time what happened when he was coming off a year absence against Robin St. Preux.
In his last fight, he took 5 rounds. He went 5 rounds with OSP. I knocked OSP out in the second round. I touched John Jones. He goes to sleep,
Right.
just like my last two opponents.
All right.
Get me asked, man.
We'll quote you on that. Akhilesh, anything else?
No, I think I've asked everything that I wanted to.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Jimmy, for coming on our show and on the MMA India show. And we would like to leave you to your drink. Hey, how's it going? We know you. Enjoy your drink. And you've got a lot of MMA fans in India. Do you want to give a message to your fans in India before you leave?
Thanks to all for the support to all the Indian fans, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, and keep supporting.
Great.
All right. Thanks a lot,
It's
Jimmy.
a pleasure talking to you. Enjoy your drink. Take care.
Have a good day. Take care.
Bye, you too.
Thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. It's a pleasure for us to get in touch with you after your fight.
Yeah, no worries. My pleasure.
And once again, congratulations for the phenomenal victory.
Oh, thank you very much.
So yes, sir. So firstly, I wanted to ask you this. Going into your fight with Alan, a lot of people knew that you had tremendous skills. You possessed tremendous skills. So can you talk us through your time in the training camp leading up to your fight?
Yeah, most certainly. We started the camp here in Iceland, back home. It was a very good camp. It went well. We did. We kept on with our new conditioning program that we started before my previous fight with Albert Tumanos.
Yeah.
We kept that going, and we're not known for like big strategies. So going into this fight, I was just preparing preparing myself for the next one and learning from the last one. And I knew Alan was going to be. I knew he was going to probably try to keep the fight on the feet. So going in there, I was well prepared that he would be looking to basically sprawl and brawl, and so we did a lot of striking for this match, and setting the strikes up with takedowns and such. I didn't do too much sparring.
Right.
I never really do. I do a bit, but not that much, and I feel that's very beneficial. And then I went over to Ireland for the last 3 weeks. Um, had some really good training over there, and good partners, good southpaws. Alan is a southpaw history, and so yeah, it just the camp every time is getting better. We're getting more used to it, and it's easier to set them up.
Right. It's interesting you brought up the fact that you don't lay out the strategy so much as the other fighters or the other camps, because you previously said that you don't put a lot into the game plan. You just learn from your previous fights and go and size up your opponent inside the cage. So can you detail a little bit on that issue?
Yeah, we basically don't obsess with our opponents like some camps or some teams might do. It's just not the way we do it. I understand why some people would do it. It's their style. But we don't. I'm focusing on what I'm gonna do in this fight, and I don't really focus on the opponent. I don't really focus on Alan. I look at some of the stuff that he does just to kind of see the way he moves, but then I don't even think about him. Then I just go through the situations and improve on what I think is gonna make me a more complete fighter, and what I think is gonna make me being able to analyze my opponent, whatever they are, when I go into the octagon and make my strategies in there, and feeling his energy, and basically being able to capitalize on the movement and the pace that I feel in the fight.
Right. Now I also want to talk a bit about your grappling chops before we get into MMA. You did very well in the Pan Ams, the ADCC, and every other major grappling competition that you've enrolled in. So can you tell us a little about how you got introduced to grappling?
Yeah, I can. I was in the national team in karate here in Iceland.
Right.
I met a good friend who was in the team as well. Journo, who is my business partner today and a very good friend. And he kind of introduced me to grappling and asked me if I wanted to grapple after one of the sessions, and I didn't really know what it was. So we had a little grapple, and then he submitted me loads of times. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
We had a little submission grappling match, and basically I was just trying to grab his head and squeeze. So he got me with loads of submissions that he already trained and knew, and then he taught me, and then the ball started rolling. We started watching MMA. We started training basically a lot more mixed martial arts than karate, and slowly basically started doing MMA instead of karate.
Right. It's interesting you even talked a bit about karate, because you have a very unorthodox stance inside the cage. Now, has it been the influence of Jiro Podal, the way you move and your ins and outs during a fight?
Say that again, sorry?
Yeah, so, you have very unorthodox stance. Yeah, you have a very unorthodox stance inside the cage. So has it been the influence of someone like Jiro Podal, who works with the fighters in SPG Ireland, the way you move and your ins and outs during a fight?
Yeah, this is the style that I come from. This is, I mix up my karate with what I'm still learning, what I learned when I started doing MMA. And my style is definitely helped. I bring something into the team that they learn from, and then I learn from the stuff that they bring in. So my style is a bit of a mix from what I brought from my karate, and then what I learned from my team, my training partners, in here in Iceland and in Dublin. Of course, the likes of Conor McGregor, who's a very known for his stand-up, for his striking, who has when we met, when we were like, I don't know, 17, 18, something like that, we had a very, very different style. My style was pretty much just karate, and his style was boxing.
Right.
Very opposite kind of styles, and then we kind of developed together, along with a lot of other guys as well. And so, you know, you pick up things as you go, and then you create your own. And I've always liked the idea of having, you know, like Bruce Lee said, no style or style. You know,
Right.
you just create your own. You grab elements that you like, and you use them, and you make them efficient and effective for yourself, and that's how you create your own.
Right, you know, and the other thing is, many people kind of look past your striking skills during your fight with Alan, but your display against him reminded everyone that, you know, you could be just as lethal on the feet. So can you tell us what went through your mind the moment you know, connected with the right and the head kick?
Yeah, I was kind of stalking him, you know. I was watching him move and seeing the openings and waiting for a moment to strike and you know, getting a feel from him. And then I caught him with that right, and I see him wobble right away. Oh, he takes kind of a step back, and then I can see that his legs are gone. So I move in. I see he leans one way, so I try to catch him with the kick, just block that way. Basically wanted to keep stalking him, keeping him on the cage, keeping him on the run. I saw he was way off balance, so I snapped down his head and just felt the opening there for the submission.
Right, and after the fight, you met up with Alan, and you know, he later said 4 other fighters had turned down the opportunity to fight you before he said yes. So can you dwell a little bit on that situation?
Yeah, we were trying to get on this card for a while. You know, I was ready to fight a while ago. You know, I missed my fight in Belfast, which was very unfortunate. I was looking forward to that one because of an injury, so I had to take some time off. And good thing I did, because my ankle now is 100%. There's no feel whatsoever from that injury. And so after that, I was ready, and I was ready for a while. And we were hoping to get on that card because it's, you know, it's close and it just makes sense.
Right.
And at the time, it wasn't really any space. But then all of a sudden, there was a space on the card, and we were offered the co-main. And then they offered us, you know, they were trying to get some guys to fight, obviously some guys in the top 10, and they went through, they said 5 fighters that weren't ready, you know, didn't want to take the fight. I don't know what reasons exactly, but there was 5 guys that refused to fight or didn't want to take the fight until Alan stepped up, and you know, and I give him props for that. He stepped up. It was getting close to the fight. It wasn't a full camp at all. So he stepped up, and you know, we fought.
Right. Now, you know, after such a dominant performance, obviously you'll be fighting someone higher up in the rankings. So Alan kind of, you know, threw a couple of names as well. Someone like Jorge Masvidal is obviously fighting Damian Maia, and you have people like Stangan, and you have people like Neil Magny, for example. So realistically, after this fight, you know, you're obviously going to fight someone higher up in the rankings. So realistically, who do you see fighting next?
Yes. You know, I don't care who it is. You know, there's been talk of Wonder Boy, and I'd love that fight, but I don't know who it is. And to be honest, I don't really care. I just want to get some of these top guys and I'll just keep on moving and you know, get a good performance. I don't really mind who it is. I believe, like I said before, I'm gonna be facing all these guys in the end, and I don't care in what order.
Right. And you also said you wanted to fight twice in 2017. So realistically, do you have any timeline when you would want to return back into the octagon?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Sure. You said you wanted to fight twice, 2 more times in 2017. So Do you
Yes,
have any timeline when you would be ready to get back inside the octagon?
Yeah. I'm hoping to get a fight this summer and then another fight at the end of the year. You know, but obviously you just take one fight at a time. But this will be what I'm looking for. You know, and you know the next fight being this summer. That would be perfect.
All right. And, you know, you've also been one of the few fighters who have actually spoken out against weight cuts. So what has been the most amount of weight that you have had to, shed for a fight until now?
Probably the hardest weight cut I've had was against Brandon Fats. And only because, for some reason, and I don't know why still today, but for some reason I was very heavier than usual when I woke up.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. As you know, you were saying, please go on.
About the weight cut, yeah. So yeah, I was saying that I'm 81, 82 kilos during camp.
Okay.
Did you get what I said about Brandon Fats fight? Or no? So, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically my hardest weight cut was against Brandon Fats because for some reason I woke up heavy that morning of the weigh-ins. I was 2.5 kilos over.
Okay.
So I had to do 2.5 kilos in the bath. Which usually is about 1.5 kilos. So it's a kilo over where I usually am, and kilo or a kilo and a half. Usually it's 1 or 1.5 kilo in the bath, you know. But I walk around at 82, 83 kilos, and you know, 83 kilos if I'm really off season, like my Christmas time is at 83 kilos. If I'm in camp, I'm 81, 82 kilos long.
Right. Now,
so 5 kilos from me from the very start.
Right. Now, also from a fighter's perspective, can you tell us a bit about the dilemma you face, you know, in needing to get a size advantage, but at the same time going through the rigorous weight cutting process?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that some of these guys want to cut all their weight because everybody's doing it and they don't want to be the smaller man, but I just enjoy this too much, and I don't believe in this weight cutting. I think it's ridiculous, so I don't participate in it the way all these guys do. I enjoy my training, and I basically want to focus on becoming a better fighter rather than focusing on draining myself to be a bigger fighter. It's just a difference of emphasis, you know. I focus on something else than being the bigger fighter, you know. I'm willing to fight bigger opponents or smaller opponents. I don't mind. I think you just develop your skills, and ideally, because all these guys are walking around at a similar weight, really. You know, they're all cutting about 10 kilos, or so some are cutting a bit more, and I just think they should fight around their weight, and it's just become a ridiculous thing, and you're seeing that now where fighters are dropping out of their fights, going to the hospital because their kidneys or whatever, liver and shit is failing from all their weight cuts. So I really hope they get rid of it, you know, and these guys just step up and fight their own weight. I'd be willing to fight at 184 if people were walking in at 184. You know, there'd be guys that are a little bit heavier than me, but I'll step in there just at my walking weight, you know.
Right. So, you know, do you think then something like what happens in boxing, where you necessarily do not have that big of a difference between, say, 165 and 170, do you think adding another weight class between those weights would solve the problem that exists right now?
It could do, but I don't think that's a solution. It might help a little bit with certain fighters that walk around at certain weights. You would get maybe some guys from lightweight coming up to it. Let's say they would add the 65 class in, you know. So you would have you'd have the 65, 55, 65, and 75 instead of 70,
Right.
which is something that I've heard. And you would have some guys in the welterweight going up to 75 and cut a little less weight, and then you'll get guys from lightweight coming up. But you'll also get guys from welterweight going down to 65.
Right.
You know, and I would definitely go up to 175, no problem. I would stay there, you know, a little less cut, and you know, a little less cut for everyone, and I'll still be fighting the bigger guys. But it's just like, ideally, I would like that you would just weigh in 2 hours before you step into the octagon. Guys would just be monitored before, so they're not dehydrating themselves, and they're, you know the way they're doing. They're showing up at your house and doing your drug test. They could weigh you at that stage. See where you're at, so that you're not. So see what your working weight is, you know. So they, you know, these are professional athletes at the very, very top level.
Right.
I think this could be done, and it should be done. You know, the guys shouldn't be draining themselves for competition like that. It doesn't make sense to me, and it's not about being bigger. You know, it's not weightlifting and bodybuilding and stuff like this. It's fighting. So just step up and fight your weight. Everybody fights their weight. It's not a problem, you know.
Right. Now, also during your post-fight press conference, you talked about not wrapping your hands and kind of stretching out small-sized gloves. So what was the biggest difference you found from when you normally wrap your hands and have your normal-sized gloves?
Hello?
Hello, Gunnar. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
The phone keeps getting
yeah,
disconnected.
no worries. Where were we?
Yeah, so I
What
was
I
asking.
saying?
Yeah, I was asking you about you wrapping your hands. So, what difference did you find when you did not necessarily wrap your hands and had a relatively smaller size gloves?
Yeah, it's basically about the feel. You know, it's about the feel that I have from my hand, from my grabbing, my punches. You know, and when I'm working, you know, when I'm grabbing somebody, when I'm punching somebody, I like to have a good feel. I'm very confident that to place my fist on somebody without breaking my hand. I hit Alan Dilban on the forehead, which is his hardest part of his head.
Right.
And I didn't feel a thing in my hand. I didn't break or bruise or injure my hand at all. It feels perfect. Like I could bang a wall with it right now, and it wouldn't hurt, because I practice punching. You know, I practice punching not just with boxing gloves into a soft heavy bag. I've practiced many punches on something more solid, and my placement, my alignment of the punch and how it lands. That's something that people forget about when it comes to, you know, unarmed combat like this. When you don't have any gloves, you don't have anything to protect you, you know, and we have the smallest gloves available when we're fighting, and so, and I like that. I like that feel, you know, it's different, and that's how I like to work. No wraps, smaller gloves than usual, well stretched out, so that my fingers fit in them, because, you know, my hand is maybe too big for a small glove, but once they were stretched out, they felt amazing.
Right. Now I also wanted to ask you about SBG Ireland, because, it is currently one of the biggest gyms with a lot of fighters doing exceptionally well on the international platform. So what do you attribute this success to?
In Iceland or Iceland?
Yeah. Both SBG Ireland as well as Iceland.
What's the question? Who do I say that one more time?
Yeah, so SBG Ireland, for example, the one of the gyms that you train out of is currently one of the biggest gyms in the world. And the fighters from the gym are doing exceptionally well on the international platform. So what do you attribute this success to on the fighters?
What are my attributes?
what do you attribute this success to? What do you think makes the fighters from SPG Island so successful on the international platform?
Oh, sorry, yes. You know, the team is just, we're such a good team. We have people with different skills, people with good attitude, people that know how to train, and we have an amazing coach as well. And the team is just what makes us, you know. It's not necessarily about training, you know, very, very hard or doing this or that, you know, and being around all the best in the world. We weren't the best in the world. Like, I mean, we were unknown for until the last years, and obviously we got now a double UFC champion, Conor McGregor. Nobody knew who he was a few years ago, you know, and now he's a world superstar, you know.
All right.
And it just shows that the way we trained, and the adversity of the team with different, so many guys with different skill level and different attributes, different styles and their own styles and the attitude as well. People show up in the gym and they want to learn, you know, they're tough and they know how to fight without fighting each other. They know how to train and learn, you know, and get better. And they want to see each other do better. We're a team and we've been together for a long time. I think the vibe makes a difference as well. You know, it's not like a bunch of pros that show up somewhere and just beat the shit out of each other. We're actually a family, and I think that makes us what we are.
All right. And also, you know, you're the first UFC fighter from Iceland. So can you tell us how it has helped the up and coming fighters from Iceland, for example, following one of their own, seeing one of their own, and his journey to the top in the UFC?
So from Iceland?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a good few fighters here that are coming up now, and I look forward to see how far they go and where their career will take them, you know. And I don't want to say high hopes in terms of putting pressure on them, but I definitely can see a few guys from our gym here in Iceland, you know, go big and go all the way, and it's gonna happen in the near future. We're gonna see a lot more guys from Iceland coming into the UFC, and it is amazing for me because when I started here, there was nothing. When we started, there was absolutely nothing. There was like 3-4 of us checking out YouTube videos, you know, on key locks and whatnot, and didn't know anything. So to be where we are today is phenomenal, you know. We didn't have any coaches or anything like that. And then we went to Ireland to train with John Kavanagh, and then I went to England with Carl Tansel, and then New York training with Andrew Gracie and sunk in all this information, and you know, met a lot of fighters and great athletes and good friends, made friends here and there, and you know, and then I bring my skill and my knowledge back home and share that with my team and them, and that's how it works. That's a beautiful thing to me, and I really look forward to seeing the guys from here, you know, step it up, and we already have a couple of pros, and we're gonna have a really solid team that the world will see in the near future.
All right, fantastic. Now, one last question, Gunnar. Have you ever been to India by any chance? And do you have any message for the Indian fans? Because even going into this fight night, there were a lot of fans tuning in to watch your fight. So, did you at any point in your career have the opportunity to come down to India? And do you have any message for Indian fans?
No, I not the opportunity, but I would love to go. You know, India is obviously an amazing place. Only ever seen pictures and heard from people in there, and I've, you know, I only hear that it's a magical place, and I really love to go. And hearing I have fans from there, you know, that's amazing, and I'm very cool, and I hope they will continue watching me, and I will continue, you know, being who I am and fighting for my fans wherever they're from. You know, yeah, it's pretty amazing. I didn't know I had fans in India, but I really appreciate that, and I hope I'll see them. You know, I hope I get to meet them.
All right, outstanding. Thank you once again, Gunnar, for taking the time to talk to us. And I'll catch up with you again before your next fight.
Yes, definitely. Thanks very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
All right. You too.
Take care. Bye.
And we're back. It was great talking to Jimmy, of course.
Yeah.
Right after, fresh off of his win. Of course, he was in a bar enjoying his drink, you know, and I think it was timing was a bit off, maybe, you know, but at least he wasn't anywhere else. So you know, he was enjoying his drink, but he was, you know, sweet enough to chat with us. Though sweet is not the word I would use for him really to describe him. I don't think that's a really, you know, good way of describing Jimmy. He's a real cool cat, so to speak, and we enjoyed talking to him, and all that information, of course, we got from him. And you know, the big headline being boxers are afraid of us being MMA fighters. So let's see if that taunt and those हिंदी में हम बोलेंगे उंगली, कि वो उंगली अगर काम करेगा या नहीं, and David Hay bites the bait. You know, and this whole card happens because it's been up in the air, of course, you know, the Floyd Mayweather thing. I'll be very frank with you, I've gotten a little tired of talking about the whole Floyd Mayweather thing. It's like, if it's, you first fucking confirm it and tell us, and then we'll talk about it. Because, you know, the whole thing that, oh, the venue's booked now, and now this has happened. Next thing they're going to talk about is, oh, I went to the barber just to get ready for the fight, and I bought a new pair of clothes and underwear. Yeah, you know, confirm the fight, and you know, and let's talk about them, because it's a fight that everybody wants to see. I'm not trying to downplay it. It's a big fight. If Jimi Manuwa, David Hay comes on the fight, it'll be even huger with the addition of more MMA fighters. Anderson Silva, Roy Jones Jr., he's spoken about wanting to fight him. If that comes and it becomes an MMA fighter versus boxing, you know, it could potentially be the biggest boxing we have, because it's going to be in a boxing ring. We have to call it a boxing fight. It could potentially be the biggest boxing card ever.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of constraints, because Floyd Mayweather's big fights have always taken a lot of time. You know, you talk about him fighting Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, but it is taking time. You know, it's not like it hasn't. It's taken a year.
Yes, so, you know, they started talking in 2009, and then it materialized 6 years down the line, 7 years down the line. So, but now the thing is, Dana White has said that is happening. Conor McGregor has obviously said that's happening. Apparently, the purse is being negotiated now, who gets what amount of money, and then the pay-per-view split. Pay-per-view split might not be that bigger of a concern for them, because, again, you have Conor McGregor, the biggest draw in MMA today, Floyd Mayweather, the biggest draw in boxing history. So, yeah, I mean, Conor McGregor said it's going to happen in September. The venues have been booked from June, you know, up until September. So I do see it happening. I mean, it's very surprising, because a couple of months ago we said it's all talk, nothing's going to materialize. But the pace at which both the parties have confirmed that they're willing to fight, then Dana White, who was saying that's never going to happen, recently came, went on a show and said that is happening. So, you know, things have turned pretty quickly. So probably by the end of the year, you know, we might actually see the invasion card. That's how they call it, the MMA fighters invading boxing ring.
Oh yeah, is that official? Is that what's going to be called, MMA invasion?
The invasion card.
The invasion
That's unofficially what it is being called. Then the invasion card between the boxing, fighters and the MMA fighters.
I would pay big money for that, you know. So let's see whether it happens or not, because it would be such a, I mean, the boxing world meeting the MMA world, and quite frankly speaking, they are very hardcore fans in both camps. Even on our own site, I noticed whenever you talk about one of these things, literally on our site, there were people literally fighting where it got to the point that they found out which city, and they were talking about coming down. The usual अपने इंडिया में जो होता है मैच तुझे दिखा दूंगा तू कहाँ रहता है बता तू कहाँ रहता है so it was interesting to see it go down that far a road, which again we spoke about Jimi Manuwa and his statement, and again people are getting a little riled up on both sides about that, which is fine. That's how I guess they want to sell fights. So
right. I think it's natural because boxing has been around for 2 centuries. It needs to evolve. What's the next step the boxers are going to take? Because boxing has evolved in itself as a sport. MMA still keeps evolving because it's such a dynamic, such a complete all-round sport. It's not just one department that needs to improve, that someone needs to improve. So I think the evolution of both the sports is completely different. I think boxing is saturated at this point. Who are the biggest draws that you can see in boxing today? Triple G, Canelo, not many, three maybe at most. So I think the next evolution of boxing in itself would be, a cross sport fight, or a fight between boxers and MMA fighters. So I think this is natural progression, to be very honest.
I don't know if I would look at it as a progression, because it's almost like going back to a pure form of martial art. It's one of the, a combat sport rather, not a martial art, but a combat sport. It's one of the pillars of MMA. So you've got to actually forget all the others and just stick to the purity of boxing, and it is a whole different. And my only thing is, what happens when instinct kicks in, and you're trained to take down people and kick them? How do you control, first of all, that instinct?
So firstly, natural progression for boxing itself, not. Yeah, if you talk about MMA fighters, that's not progression for them.
What? Neither is it a progression for boxers, because they're still fighting in their own style, just against different fighters.
Different fighters, but these are completely unique people. These are not boxers. These are not.
Yeah, but they're not bringing all of those unique skills to the ring. They are only bringing their boxing skills to the ring.
But they're bringing the stardom, super stardom.
Yes, the stardom leaves you the minute you enter that ring. We all know that.
So, there are two things. What happens, I'm being very optimistic because Floyd Mayweather has always been the best defensive boxer in the sport. But what if Conor lands that one big...
Of course, what if he gets through the defenses? It will shake up the combat sport world, definitely.
Right, so that's what I say. It is, probably the next step, the next progression, because if the unthinkable happens, then you will see more and more MMA fighters transitioning to boxing. You have the Nate Diaz is saying, hey, I want to box now. Right, so you're bringing superstars from one sport to boxing. So it's a progression. In a way, it's, other fighters from other departments coming over to boxing and kind of, transforming the entire scenario. So that is what I find very interesting. But it's difficult. It's difficult to actually see how these MMA fighters whose bread and butter, for example, is the all-round aspect, not just striking. But saying that, even when we talked to Jimmy yesterday, we asked him about the evolution of strikers in MMA. We have seen how Conor McGregor, we have seen how Nate Diaz, they bring kickboxers, boxers, Joe Schillings of the world. They bring them to the sparring sessions and they spar in boxing. So I think it's no longer just going for a takedown or neutralizing the opponent. It's more about being complete in all the areas, being complete as a wrestler, being complete as a grappler, as a boxer. So I think that has changed in MMA, and that is something that cannot change in boxing. So I think that might not be a big of a deal for the MMA fighters because they have been practicing, they stand up for many, many years. Even when we talk about Conor McGregor, we know for a fact that he was sparring with a boxer from South Africa for his fight with Nate Diaz. So at the end of the day, it's going to be very interesting no matter what happens. But if Conor manages to shake up the world like he has with,
Not just Conor, I would say if any of them, if any of the fights,
any of them, yeah.
if let's say a Jimmy beats David or if an Anderson beats Roy, it would shake up the boxing world.
Yeah, it would. It completely would. Then you have the Bob Arums. So for like half a century, you have the boxing promoters going against the MMA promoters, the boxing fans going against the MMA fans, where the boxers say you do not know about the purity or the technicality of boxing, while the other department says you do not know about the purity of martial arts. So it's just going to be the collision of two worlds. Now that's the entertainment aspect of the entire scenario.
Yeah, and I actually have a feeling it could even get. I mean, you could have like, where you had different soccer teams and the hooligans fighting against each other. That's a possibility. I'm telling you, from what I've seen, there are really hardcore fans. But yeah. So anyway, just tell everybody to calm the fuck down. It's just a fight. No reason to kill each other over it. But getting down to UFC London, Brad Pickett's farewell fight, I really did feel Marlon Vera was much bigger. Of course, it was at a catch weight, but he was much, he was, I don't know if it was right to match up Brad Pickett against Marlon Vera weight class and size-wise.
Yes, so he was supposed to fight Henry first, but then it was, on a short notice that
of course.
Henry had to
Yeah, we already spoke about that.
And yeah, with just a few days to cut down so much weight, it wasn't fair for Marlon to, be able to do that.
What weight class does Marlon usually fight at? Is it bantamweight?
130.
Sorry?
He's a bantamweight.
Okay, fair enough then.
But the thing is, he did not have enough time to cut those extra pounds.
Yeah.
So he had to come down to 140 eventually. Yeah. But saying that, as you said, especially when you're a grappler or a wrestler, having that size advantage is always going to work in your favor. We talked about this with the likes of Oliveira when he fought Will Brooks. We knew for a fact that he would take the fight into the clinches, take Will Brooks against the cage, and then go for grappling and try to submit him. So it is always going to be an advantage for these guys when they go beyond the weight limit. But this time around, I don't think UFC had any other way to go about it, because it was Brad Pickett's last fight.
Yeah.
He wanted to go out in his hometown in London. So I don't think Pickett would have said no to the fight at any given opportunity. And even the UFC knew that, since it was Pickett's last fight, similar to Uriah Faber's last fight in Sacramento, California, they had to kind of bite down, take things as they come, and then get any opponent that would say okay to take a short notice fight. Because now the thing is, see, if Pickett had even won, it wouldn't have done much to his legacy, because Pickett is always going to be a legend. But for anyone else to get a victory like Marlon Vera did against Pickett, a legend of the sport at 135 at lower weight classes, it's always going to be a big deal for him. Look at Jimmy Rivera, for example, when he fought Uriah Faber. He came in with nothing to lose, but Faber had everything to lose. Rivera won that fight, top 10. Now he's a top 10 guy. He wanted to fight Brian Caraway's number 4. So he made a name for himself essentially with a win over Uriah Faber. Uriah Faber. So it was the same with Marlon Vera. He wanted to, defeat Pickett in his hometown. And we saw what happened even after the fight when Vera was overcome with emotion. He just appreciated Pickett for whatever he has done. Said he grew up idolizing Pickett. So at the end of the day, he took his chance and he grabbed the opportunity with both hands.
What was the most standout moment for me was not in the fight, but after the fight, of course. After Marlon Vera, very clear, emotional Marlon Vera, asking the crowd to pipe down, because it was disrespecting Brad. He's a true fighter, and Marlon came in to give it his all, and it was disrespectful to just because your guy didn't win, and it was disrespectful to Brad. And I think Marlon really clearly pointed that out, that even he's a fan of Brad. He grew up like that, and he got an opportunity to fight, so of course he was going to bring all of it. and it's disrespectful of Brad to, boo the opponent who just beat him fair and square.
Right, and I think the fight kind of epitomized Pickett's entire career. You look at his most of his fights. He was, in at least 4 or 5 fights, he was winning the fight before being caught eventually. The same thing happened with this final fight. Before, I think it was winning the fight, but then Almeida caught him, and Pickett eventually lost. So, the first 2 rounds you saw Pickett. Vera was the grappler. Pickett was the boxer, but he still went for the takedowns. He was the one going for the grappling exchange. He was the one initiating all of that. So Pickett wanted to show to the world that even at his age, even in his last fight, he still had the chops to go with anyone at in the 135-pound division. Going into the fight, we knew what's going to happen. So Vera, being the better grappler, would always want to take the fight to the ground, while Pickett, always being the better boxer, he came up through so in UK, you have this big section of underground boxing fights, and most of these guys who come from United Kingdom, for example, you have the likes of Michael Bisping as well, who came up through these ranks where it was all about bare knuckle boxing, your underground boxing, amateur fights. So Pickett came up through those ranks, so he was always going to be the better boxer going into any fight in a 135-pound division. So you'd eventually expect going into the fight that Pickett would be the aggressor going into the boxing ranges and trading combinations with Vera, while he would go for the grappling exchange. But Pickett again made a point in the first 2 rounds where he was clearly the more dominant fighter. He took the fight to the ground. He was better on the ground. He was better on the feet. Just in the 3rd round, that one moment where Pickett kind of slacked off, and even in the 2nd round, Vera went for a high kick, but was not able to connect. In the 3rd round, he did. He was able to connect, which stunned Pickett, and then he finished him with the ground and pound for the TKO. Now, even many felt that the fight was stopped very early by the referee. I thought it was proper because Pickett did not defend himself intelligently for the first 2 strikes that came down on him. So I think all in all, the fight kind of summed up Pickett's career, where he was the guy that was dominating the fight, but that just one decisive moment where he kind of slacked off, where he just went on the back foot, got caught, and then lost. I think even after the fight, that's what Pickett said. That was, his entire MMA career in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, thanks to Brad Pickett for all the fights and all the entertainment. But we always have to move on, and he's had a great career, and we thank him for that. Moving on to the next fight, Gunnar Nelson versus Alan Jouban. What I found really I'm just wondering whether all the guys from SBG, who trained under Coach Kavanagh, how do you pronounce his name? Coach Kavanagh?
John Kavanagh.
Kavanagh. Yeah, so Coach Kavanagh, whether they have the same kind of stance, because even Gunnar Nelson has this very wide, kind of stance, and he's, he can really quickly move away, and come back in. So, and from the back, so many times that stance reminded me so much of Conor, but getting to the fight, it was, of course, the whole cat and mouse game that we thought it would. This guy just waiting to pounce on him, and Alan, really furtive, using his kicks, trying to keep distance, and after the first round, we saw his corner telling him, when we tell you to bring your back off the fence, take the center. That's where you're going to win the fight. And it was ironic that Gunnar, I don't feel he did technically win it through the choke, but he actually won it with a straight right. He could have actually have finished him off with punches and ground and pound, but he because that straight right really rattled Alan, and then the kick to the head. I think it was to the head, right? The follow-up kick to the head.
Right.
He just went down, and what he said in a later interview was he didn't want to punch him more because Alan Jouban is a model as well. and
Right.
and spoil his give him more damage to his face because he's a model as well. So he choked him out instead. So I thought that was really sweet in a way. We could actually call that sweet. That in that moment he actually thought that this guy is a model, and I don't want to really injure his face any more than it was already needed, and he's already out. Let me finish it with a choke. That was really sweet, and there was a photo of them after the fight at a bar together discussing strategy. So I thought that whole thing was an amazing fight, amazing camaraderie afterwards also, and just how the fight game should be. It was a really entertaining fight, It wasn't, they were always engaging, and they were always trying to be aggressive, and you could see both of them, of course, always trying to take it to the other guy. So I thought that was really a really entertaining fight, and of course the whole cat and mouse. Once he kicked him to the face in the end, the way he just dragged him down, it was literally like a lion or tiger dragging their prey down. Once they've got them by the scrape of the neck, they just drag them to the ground, and he wrapped him around like his neck like a snake. So that was really exciting stuff to see, and good for Gunnar to make a comeback. I think this is his second win in a row, or because
Right.
the loss to Damien was now 3 fights before.
Fights, yeah.
So because that fight, of course, he was, Damien Maya showed he was just in a different level. But Gunnar is no slouch. He was just against, like we said, somebody in a different universe in jiu-jitsu at least when he faced him. But so great fight, I think, from his side.
Yeah. So firstly, just talking about the stance itself. Yeah, because you have someone like Ido Portal who works with all the guys from SPG Island. You have the likes of Conor McGregor who trains there. You have
Artem.
Gunnar Nelson, Artem Lobov. So all of these guys who train out of SPG Island, who have taken the movement training with Ido Portal. I think we saw the video before the Jose Aldo fight with Conor McGregor where they were working on the beach, and the one thing that they were working on, and that this is where Conor McGregor even scored his ultimate victory over Jose Aldo, was his ins and outs. So what they do with the ins and outs, that's what they practice a lot more. Just to bait someone to come forward, move back, and counter with a left or a right.
And it is that stance which helps in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is your traditional. So even the stance itself is your Kenshin karate stance, which is more sideways and more broad rather than your traditional kickboxing or Muay Thai stance. So this was one of the things that I was very interested in when I was watching the foot movement, the footwork, where you had Alan Joban, who was more of a traditional Muay Thai, had a more traditional Muay Thai stance, where, as you said, Gunnar Nelson had a more unorthodox stance, which is your karate with your hops that they do with Ido Portal. So, just going into the fight, we discussed about how it could boil down to their grappling, because one, of course, Gunnar Nelson is an exceptional grappler, while Alan Joban again has a black belt, I think, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. But Gunnar Nelson again showcased exemplary striking as well. He kind of showed that it was not all grappling for him. He was also a tremendous striker that he has. And This is where I think even Artem Lobov has improved in the past couple of years. So I think SPG Island is producing some really good fighters, and they're no longer the one-dimensional fighter that they once were when they came to the UFC. We can say that about Artem Lobov, we can say that about Gunnar Nelson, we can say that about Bellator MMA's James Gallagher, who kind of came in as your orthodox striker, but then improved in his all-round game. So I think even in this fight, it was the first round itself was pretty even. Stevens, you had as you said, Gunnar Nelson was standing back, letting Alan come in, but then in the second round, I think he stopped the fight in about 45-50 seconds. Just that one punch that stunned Alan Joban, and then the head kick, as you said, and then he just dragged him to the ground and finished him with the guillotine. we also talked about how a dominant win for either opponent would propel them in the ranking. So I'd be very interested to see who's next for Gunnar Nelson, because he has showcased that he is a very dominant fighter. Right now, he's improved after his fight with Damian Maia. He has improved tremendously. So, we talk about a lot of people in the 170 pound division, but I think we were sleeping on Gunnar Nelson as well till now. So
Yeah.
with this showing,
Well, we weren't really sleeping on him. I think he was forced to take a back foot after his loss to Damian Maia. So
Right.
he needed to reprove kind of himself, to the fans and viewers, which he has done now.
Right. So, yeah, now in the 170 pound division, if you look at the top three guys, your Stephen Thompson, your Tyron Woodley, your Masvidal, Damian Maia. So who's left? Lawler and Cerrone are expected to fight soon. So I'm really interested to see what's next for Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson is no longer, your top 15 fighter. He's a top 10 fighter now. So I think anyone from the top 5 or top 7 should be next for. It will be, as I said, I'm very interested to see who's next for Gunnar.
Yeah. So let's see what is, announced for him. And then next, there's quite a few possibilities. So it'd be exciting to see what he gets next. Now coming to the final fight, Jimi Manuwa versus Corey Anderson. Of course, we've touched upon it. We've spoken to him. You've seen that interview. Again, he was, Corey Anderson was, for lack of a better, example, was flitting around like the prey. And Jimi Manuwa was just slowly stalking him. Like, basically saying, if it was in Hindi, like, kabhi to haath aayega. Kabhi to haath aayega. Jab haath aayega to dikhaunga. So, he really just slowly stalked him, and he looked for that opening, and at that time he really just put on the pressure, and that left hand came in so quick that it was hard to imagine that it did the damage that it did.
Right.
And Corey Anderson was, did have a good game plan. He was, he was always a moving target. Of course, Jimmy's takedown defense was really good. Corey wasn't able to take him. He did have him in trouble somewhere in the, I forgot. He did try to almost take him down, but Jimmy defended that. But he did, he was busy all the time. He was busy, trying to get into the pocket, try to take him down. But Jimmy was really relaxed, and it's almost as if, I don't know if it's like the tables had turned, with he's almost like, I don't know, he has, of course, he is like an Anthony Johnson, except Anthony Johnson is, I don't know if I want to compare them, but he has beaten him, but he does want to face him again, But there are such similarities in their game where they're just looking for that one punch. Whereas in this fight, Jimi Manuwa seemed to be a little more at ease, knowing that he's going to get that, window, and then when he does see that window, he's going to take advantage of it, which he did, and down went Corey Anderson. Hello. Oh. Well, something wrong happened with Akhilesh again, so we got to reconnect. And we're back. And Akhilesh's internet problems have followed him all the way from Hyderabad to Mumbai, to Navi Mumbai, where he's shifted to be closer to all of us. But he's back. So I think we were, just talking. Where were we? We were
talking about Jimi Manuwa and Corey Anderson.
Yeah, that I know. But what exactly, we finished talking about the fight. What point were we?
Yeah, so you were talking about Corey Anderson's movement, and all it took Jimmy was one left.
Yeah. What I was saying basically was, he hit him so quick, you didn't really notice the force of that punch and the way he went down. And Corey Anderson is a big guy, but the way he just crumbled and went down, just like OSP, in a way. He just crumbled and went down. It was, if it doesn't bode well for whoever he's facing. But like we said, I think the real true test will come again at with the top five. Again, one of the top three, top five guys. What was Corey Anderson's rank? Do you remember?
It was about at 8, I think.
8, yeah.
8 or 9.
So that's why I say I think a true test, of course. Not that he's not up to it, but I think that will really be a fight where he's not just going to stalk his opponent. It's going to be a lot more happening, I think. Not that there wasn't a lot happening in this. It was a really entertaining and exciting fight. That's not what I'm trying to say, but you know what I'm trying to say because we discussed it already in the pre-fight episode
Right.
as well. So let's see who eventually. He wants the winner of Daniel Cormier or Anthony Johnson. Whether he gets that or not, because he can have a very quick turnaround. He hardly got hit in this fight, or he wants boxer David Haye, which we've already discussed. So let's see. Of course, even if David Haye happens, that'll happen much later. So if he does get the winner of DC or Anthony Johnson, that should happen. Turnaround should happen much quicker, depending on what happens in that fight. If he gets the winner, if Dana and the UFC brass think he does deserve the winner, the winner of that next, or I didn't quite get why he doesn't want to face Glover Teixeira. I think he said Teixeira's turned down a fight with him or something.
If I were Jimi Manuwa, for example, Teixeira would be a fight that I would be ecstatic to take because Teixeira obviously does not have the same chin anymore. We have seen what happened when he faced Anthony Johnson.
Yeah.
With that one vicious uppercut, he just floored him. So even if I was offered Glover Teixeira, if I were Jimi Manuwa, I would say yes. But for me, and Jimmy's reasoning was apt as well. He said, look, I want money fights. I don't want those 4-5 ranked guys anymore. I want the money fight, which makes sense because, John Jones is going to come back in June, right? So you have the winner of DC and Anthony Johnson, and if they are thrown in against John Jones, with John Jones comeback fight, you might see, John Jones losing the fight because of just how sloppy he looked against Owen St. Preux. So if I was, if I was Dana White, I would want to give John Jones one other fight before, feeding him to either Daniel Cormier or Anthony Johnson, whoever wins the fight at UFC 210. So I would ideally be looking at John Jones, Jimi Manuwa. Now the thing is, Jimi Manuwa has said he might not want to fight John Jones because of all the steroid allegations.
But he did say he would if he had to.
If he had to, yes. So there is a lot of debate going on in the MMA community at this point as to why Jimi Manuwa said he does not want to fight John Jones. Many say it might be because John Jones is a beast. Even when he was 21, when he just entered the UFC, we saw what a tear he was on. He beat the crap out of people like Rashad Evans as well. So, John Jones is a beast. But if I were Jimi Manuwa, if I was offered John Jones' fight when he comes back to the UFC, I would take it. Because just how sloppy John looked against Owen St. Preux, I would actually back myself. If I were Jimmy, I would back myself to defeat John Jones. And the other thing is, we haven't seen John taking on a lot of guys with that one-punch knockout power that Jimmy has proved in his past 2 fights against Owen St. Preux and now Corey Anderson. John Jones, he faced the likes of Gustafsson. He never fought Anthony Rumble Johnson. He never fought, Jimi Manuwa. People who have that kind of scary one-touch, if I touch you, you go down kind of a power. So if I was Jimi Manuwa, I would realistically be looking at 2 major fights. One is Glover Teixeira or the other is John Jones. Now, if for some reason those two don't materialize, I would look at Shogun. Because he already said Shogun turned down a fight.
Yeah, but we spoke about this though in the pre-fight thing also that, Shogun versus, didn't we say Jimi Manuwa? That Shogun versus Jimmy, yeah. But like we said, he had already been offered that fight and he turned it down. So
if I was him, I would really look at only 2 fights. One is Glover Teixeira, which again doesn't make that much of a sense for him because he wants the money fight.
I think John Jones' return sounds like a really good fight to face the winner of DC or Anthony Johnson then.
Yeah, but again, feeding him to one of these two guys, because we know for a fact that he will have ring rust. We have seen what happened when he faced Owen St. Preux. We know it's not going to be the same John Jones. So if I was UFC, I would either look at giving DC the winner of DC Johnson John Jones, or I would probably want to give John Jones a test fight first before giving him to the winner of DC and Anthony Johnson. So if I were Jimmy right now, I would find myself in a very interesting position. I could call my shots. If I was Jimmy, I would say give me John Jones, because ideally I think that would be his biggest fight of his career.
Yeah,
If he
without a
wins
doubt.
against John Jones,
Without a doubt, yeah. Come on, this is
Yeah.
John Jones we're talking about. It's not, it's no matter if he had some ring rust against, OSP, he's still John Jones.
yeah, but which version of John Jones is going to show up? Is the John Jones that fought Daniel Cormier going to show up, or is the John Jones that fought Winston, and with all due respect, Alexander Gustafsson going to show up?
Yeah, but that's just a chance he's going to have to take.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. If I were Jimi Manuwa, I would want John Jones.
Yeah.
I would call for John Jones.
Well, all I have to say is be careful what you wish for. Yeah,
Yeah, but you get big opportunities when you take on big names.
of course, without a doubt. He is the guy. I mean, if you beat him, that makes you, legitimate, and it gives you so much confidence to face anybody else to beat John
Yeah,
Jones.
so imagine Jimi Manuwa beating John Jones. That will shake the entire
course.
4-5 division up.
Of course,
So
it would basically
myself.
be like a Ronda Rousey Holly Holm fight.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
So if
yeah.
I were Jimmy, I'd be pretty okay with taking those chances with those odds.
Yeah, well, let's see what they finally decide. We will, I'm sure, hear soon enough after his holiday. I don't know if he's meeting Dana White before his holiday or afterwards. But so that's it. UFC London, and we've spoken to Jimmy, of course. It's been a great episode so far, and thank you for joining us. And we will be back soon with lots more MMA interviews and lots more MMA news. And don't forget to check us out on MMAindia.com.